Okay, so we've had quite a bit there on thinking about the resource requirements and starting to think about making sure we're getting the right resources to undertake our marketing activity. Okay, so we've looked at our different prioritization needs. So what do we need to prioritize? What's the most important thing we're going to need to track? What are the key things? Well, in other words, what's the most important thing? Following on from there, we start to look at our resources and being very particular about our resources to make sure that we end up with the right resources at the right time for the right people doing the right thing. Okay, we really don't want to get that wrong because we don't want to be wasting, okay? But especially things like money, very limited amounts. Time can often be against us, and people, we never seem to have the right number of people that we need. So making sure that we're utilizing all those resources the right way is just so critically important. So one of the things that we need to do is once we've got all these things sort of sorted out, is we need to start thinking about, well, how we're going to start to inform our team members about what the activity is going to be coming up. And to start to get their understanding of what's going to happen and get their feedback. Obviously, not just at the planning stages, but during the activity and then following on after the activity, okay? So that post wrap-up. So one of the things we need to think about there is a sort of a briefing or a meeting model. And there's a few different things that we need to do. The first thing we need to do is to make sure, so we need to ensure all members are present. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're getting everybody, okay, and on time, more to the point. Okay, not just that they turn up, but they actually turn up and make sure they catch the whole meeting. All right, so we need to make sure that everyone gets the same message. All right, that's just so critically important in business because we see all the time people coming in and one person thinks one thing, the next person thinks the other. They both think they're right. That leads to confusion down the track. And what's worse is they start to confuse each other after some time. So being able to get a whole bunch of people in one place at one time, all on the same message, all understanding the same thing, getting the information from the source is critically important. And when we talk about the on-time perspective, we're saying don't turn up to the meetings 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late, and things have already started. Because once things are started, people are trying to play catch up and everyone's sort of moving back and forth. And then something else critical will get discussed and then half the people miss it because they're still 5 minutes ago. All right, so we need to get to a point to make sure that everyone's there and everyone's on time before things begin. Okay, even sometimes if you have to wait for that one person to eventually get there, it's really worth doing that because if you kick off without them, you're just setting yourself up for something to go wrong. You might have another performance conversation with the person about why they're so late to your meeting, but you can have that later. The key point though at this stage is to make sure that you're getting that same message to everybody involved by making sure they're all there at the same meeting, on time, ready to go. Okay, or at least if they're going to be late, make sure you get it done. The next thing about making sure you have an effective meeting is to make sure that you have defined it. Okay, so what we're talking about here is define the purpose. Okay, that people know why you're having the meeting. And the reason I make sure people know why I'm having the meeting is because that gives them a really clear indication of what it is that I want them to bring. Okay, if they're saying if I'm telling them it's a briefing, they know bring pen, bring paper, and be ready to get information. If I'm saying the purpose of the briefing is to solve a problem that we're having, that lets them know that there might be some pre-reading to do, that they need to be across the problem before they come so that we can actually just get straight into getting on with whatever's happening. If we're saying the purpose of the meeting is to track a result, then they know to bring the results with them. We don't want them to get to the meeting and go, what's this about again? I'm not really sure what's happening. And then they're lost and they have to go scattering around getting information. Okay, so make sure you tell them up front, this is the nature of the meeting, this is what we're going to do, this is the briefing we're having, and that gives them a clue of what to bring, okay? Also sometimes, if you're not really specific on it, they might know what it is, but they'll muck around not bringing you what you want because they might have some bad news they don't really want to share. All right, set really clear objectives. Okay, so we know the purpose. Okay, this is what we want to do in the meeting, and this is why we're having it. What exactly do we want to achieve in the meeting? Okay, is it an information meeting where what I really want to do is make sure everyone is clearly informed about this? So before we leave, I make sure that we've achieved the objective, that everyone now understands this. Or is the meeting purpose that and the objective that we want to get to the end that we have a set of solutions for a problem? In other words, when this meeting ends, what is it that I want to ensure has happened? Okay, so they're my objectives. And that way I can see whether it was effective. Did I need a list of names of volunteers? Did I need to make sure everyone understood their task assignment? What is it that I wanted? One of the ways to do that is by setting an agenda as well as a time frame. Okay, if you let people know exactly what we're going to be discussing and an agenda so they know who is talking on what issues, and we could then talk about multiple purposes, we could talk about multiple objectives, whatever it happened to be. As long as we've got an agenda, they know who's speaking when and on what. Time frame is also important because you don't want people sitting around at the meeting going, oh, how long is this meeting going for again? Oh, I had another plan. I didn't realize it was going to take an hour, so I've only allowed for 10 minutes or something like that. So if it's going to be a short one, let them know it's a short one, because then that sort of drives them to action. They know they've only got 10 minutes to come up with whatever it is, so they need to bring as much as possible. Or if on the other hand, it's a long agenda that they know they're going to be there for a couple of hours, they can make arrangements, okay? And that way you won't have people arriving late, you won't have people trying to leave early, you won't have people confused about how long does this meeting go for, when do I need to have an answer by, who's speaking next, is it my turn, when do I talk, who's doing what, okay? Take away that confusion, make sure it's really clear there. The other thing we need to do is record roles and responsibilities. Okay, so what we're talking about there is, okay, even in the meeting or the briefing, who's chairing the briefing? So who's going to be doing the talking? Who's responsible for making sure that everyone knows it's on and sending out the invitations? Whose job is it to make sure the agenda is being compiled? Or who do they need to contact with their agenda items? Is someone taking a minutes of a meeting or taking a note? Are they then responsible for giving it out to everyone at the end? Or are all the attendees responsible for taking their own notes? That we're not taking minutes and then forwarding them. They just need to take a note of anything that's sort of related to that area and going on from there. All right, so this is just the first lot of basics, and in a second we're going to move on to the next lot of things that you need to do to make sure that the meeting runs effectively. Continuing on. All right, so on our briefings, the other things that we need to start to do once we've done that is to always make sure that we're appointing, when we talk about those roles and responsibilities, appoint the right person to the task. Okay, so some of the considerations when we're having a briefing, when we say appoint the right person to the task, make sure that if you're going to put someone in a position, make sure they're able to do the position. Okay, if you need someone who's able to take notes and take the minutes of a meeting, make sure you got someone who's able to type and organise things in a logical, easy to understand manner. If you've got someone chairing the meeting, obviously think about getting someone in there who actually knows all the participants, because that's going to make life a lot easier for that person to run the meeting effectively. Okay, so if you've got different jobs, the person that's going to invite people, etc., just make sure that really is the right person to do it. Okay, it doesn't always need to be the most senior manager, but if you're going to make sure there's invitations, get someone in your organisation or someone that you know who knows everyone involved, so they're not just coming to you every 2 seconds going, who do I need to invite? Where are they at again? Because otherwise it just ends up, it would have been quicker to do it yourself and save yourself the frustration. Okay, so make sure that if you're going to get someone to do something, that it's the right person to help you achieve it. All right, now the other thing is we need to allow sufficient time. And one of the things we need to start allowing time for is making sure there's time for discussion or brainstorming. Okay, brainstorming, a term everyone keeps using. They don't necessarily do it very well. Brainstorming is something that people do shockingly badly, yet everyone seems to think they do it. Make sure you've got a good process for brainstorming, make sure you understand the tool and the purpose of it, but make sure that also you leave sufficient time. Okay, so on your agenda, make sure that you know what you want to discuss, when you want to discuss, and as I said, make sure everyone knows exactly how long you're going to spend doing that, okay? If it's 10 minutes, say it's 10 minutes, make sure everyone's really clear, okay? And that way you can make sure you're getting things done. The next thing we need to think about is making sure that we're summing up the meeting. Okay, because we want to make sure we get understanding and agreement. All right, so one of the things that we need to make sure that we're doing to make sure that that we're actually having effective meetings is that we've got understanding, that everyone knows exactly what's going on, and we've got agreement, especially around roles and responsibilities. Okay, so that when everyone's finished, that at the end of the meeting that we've summed it up, we know who's doing what, we know where they're doing it, when they're doing it, etc. And that people agree and acknowledge the fact that that's what's being asked of them. Okay, so that last little phase, don't just go, oh, you'll do this, you'll do this, you'll do this, okay, go, see you later. Make sure you've got some sort of tool or some sort of, methodology that you're going to use to make sure that people understand and agree that they know what their role and responsibility is going to be. Also, that's before you even set the meeting. When you're doing task allocation or any other time, that's always, a thing to do. Make sure that you know who you're talking to, that they know that you're tasking them. Let them know what you want done, when you need it done by, and the standard to which you need it done. And make sure they're really clear on it too. Get them to make sure they repeat back to you their understanding, and then you go, yep, okay, we're all on the same page, fantastic, we can implement. If there's any, any mistakes, we can pick them up nice and early before too much time has gone, and then we need to do, rework, get additional resources, those sort of things. So, whenever you're doing task allocation, make sure there is that understanding of what people are going to be, doing. And then make sure that in the meeting, when we get to the end, okay, at the end of the meeting, make sure you arrange the next meeting. Okay, make sure you got some sort of schedule. When is it? Where is it? And purpose once again. Okay, so we might say at the end of our initial briefing, okay, this is the marketing activity I'm going to do. The purpose of today's meeting, or the meeting we're about to have, is to make sure that everyone understands what's going to happen as part of our marketing activity, so I can make sure there's understanding. And then, that's what we're going to do. It's going to take 5-10 minutes, etc. I'll let you know what's happening. At the end of that meeting, okay, now you understand what's happening in my marketing activity. The next meeting we're going to have is going to be tomorrow, and in that meeting we're going to allocate tasks and responsibilities. So please bring your calendar or any other material you want them to bring or read, whatever. That will be at this location at whatever time, and at the end of that meeting we'll all know exactly what we're going to do. Then you go through that meeting. At the end of our task allocation meeting, okay, everyone now knows what's, what they're responsible for. They can now begin their work. The next meeting we will have will be a week later, which will be a progress report. Please bring with you any details of what you've been undertaking so we can get up to date and make sure that we're progressing well. Okay, so they start to get a bit of an idea about what's coming up, and if you're really good at it, you can actually schedule a whole bunch of different meetings for them and let them know what they are and give them a bit of a calendar. All right, so if you're doing all these things, you'll make sure people understand what's expected of them. They'll be able to participate effectively. Things won't get lost, and you can engender really good discussions. All right, so that's briefings finished off, but that's generally good advice for regardless of what sort of meeting it is, briefing or otherwise. Okay, if you follow all those different steps, you'll have good meetings, and it'll just, it'll save people feeling they wasted their time. All right, great, thank you.